The concept of loyalty weaves through every corner of our existence, from relationships and business partnerships to political allegiances and family bonds. From childhood, we're taught that loyalty is one of the highest virtues, something to aspire to, a principle that defines our character. But what if this foundational belief is built on a dangerous misconception? What if loyalty, as we understand it, is a carefully constructed illusion, one that blinds us to the true nature of human relationships? Niccolò Machiavelli, the 16th century Florentine philosopher, whose name has become synonymous with political cunning, exposed a brutal truth that many still refuse to accept. Loyalty is a lie, not just occasionally compromised or difficult to maintain, but fundamentally, inherently a deception, a story we tell ourselves and others. This isn't just historical speculation. Look around you. The business partner who sticks around only while profits are high, the politician who abandons principles the moment the polls shift, the friend who vanishes when your social capital fades. Even family ties can fray and snap under enough pressure. The evidence surrounds us, yet we cling desperately to the myth of loyalty because the alternative forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth about human nature. Machiavelli's insights weren't confined to Renaissance politics. They reveal the mechanics of all human interaction. His work doesn't just reflect the behavior of people in 16th century Florence. It describes how people behave everywhere, always, and these insights upend everything you've been taught about loyalty, obligation, and connection, the prince and the power of self-interest. To understand Machiavelli's view on loyalty, we turn to his most infamous work, The Prince, written in 1513. Contrary to popular belief, this wasn't merely a manual for tyrants. It was a cold, unflinching analysis of human nature and the dynamics of power, rooted in Machiavelli's real-world experience in the Florentine government. Men are by nature fickle, he writes. It is easy to persuade them of something, but difficult to keep them persuaded. This observation cuts straight to the heart of the loyalty myth. People's allegiances don't spring from an innate sense of fidelity. They arise from self-interest, calculations that are constantly shifting as circumstances change. Machiavelli saw it firsthand. When the Medici family fell from power in Florence, their devoted supporters quickly aligned with the new republic. When the Medici returned, those same supporters flipped again. This wasn't an exception. It was the rule. The prince strips away the noble facade of political loyalty to expose the machinery underneath. Advisors professing loyalty while scheming for advancement. Allies staying faithful only until better opportunities arise. Citizens obeying until the cost of obedience becomes too great. In Machiavelli's view, this isn't moral failure. It's human nature doing exactly what it was built to do. Consider one of his most famous lines. A man who wishes to make a profession of goodness in all things will come to ruin among so many who are not good. This isn't just cynicism. It's a warning. To expect unwavering loyalty in a world governed by self-interest is to invite exploitation. Beyond politics, the universality of self-interest. Machiavelli's insight stretches far beyond politics. The employee who pledges loyalty to a company but jumps ship for a better offer. The spouse who promises fidelity until temptation proves stronger. The friend who swears eternal devotion but disappears when your need becomes inconvenient. Self-interest doesn't occasionally override loyalty. It is the core operating system of human behavior. Loyalty is merely its disguise, the psychological illusion of loyalty. But if loyalty is so obviously fragile, why do we continue to believe in it? Machiavelli understood the psychological game as well. Men judge more by the eye than by the hand, he writes, because it belongs to everyone to see, but to few to touch. We witness the performances of loyalty, the pledges, the ceremonies, the public declarations, but few of us feel the shifting calculations beneath. We're better at recognizing the signals of loyalty than measuring its substance. This creates a gap between appearance and reality, a gap Machiavelli recognized as essential to social cohesion. The myth of loyalty serves powerful psychological and social functions. It gives us the illusion of security in an uncertain world. It offers a moral framework that enables cooperation even among competing interests. It creates a sense of predictability in a fundamentally unpredictable social landscape. This also explains why betrayal hits us so hard. When someone violates our expectations of loyalty, we don't just suffer practical consequences. We endure the collapse of an entire worldview. The intensity of our reaction isn't tied to the damage done. It's tied to the psychological threat it poses to our carefully constructed understanding of relationships. Machiavelli understood this dynamic with chilling clarity. He observed that effective rulers recognized the importance of appearances, often prioritizing the illusion of loyalty over its reality. "Everyone sees what you appear to be," he wrote, "but few experience what you really are." The successful prince maintains the theater of loyalty because the performance itself is often more valuable than the truth behind it. This insight stretches far beyond Renaissance politics. Take modern corporate culture. Companies champion loyalty as a virtue while simultaneously engaging in mass layoffs, mergers, and restructurings. Both employer and employee perform loyalty, even as both silently acknowledge its conditional nature. And yet the performance becomes a kind of currency, valuable not because it's entirely sincere but because both parties understand the game and what's at stake, the calculation of conditional loyalty. Rather than dismissing loyalty altogether, Machiavelli reframes it. Loyalty, in his view, isn't a moral absolute. It's conditional, rooted in advantage, not obligation. The friendship which is gained by purchase and not by greatness or nobility of spirit, he wrote, is bought but not secured, and at a pinch is not to be expended in your service. Here Machiavelli reveals his nuanced understanding. Loyalty purchased through benefits alone is transactional, and it endures only so long as the benefits do. This doesn't mean loyalty can't exist, but it means its nature is fundamentally different from our idealized version. Machiavellian loyalty is based on a continuous cost-benefit analysis. People remain loyal when the perceived value of staying outweighs the benefits of leaving or betraying, accounting for risks and consequences. This isn't about perfection, just marginal advantage, which is why loyalty often crumbles exactly when it's needed most. In times of prosperity, loyalty is easy, rewards flow, and better options aren't clearly visible. But in crisis, when loyalty becomes expensive and alternatives become more attractive, the balance shifts. That's when friends disappear, allies defect, corporate loyalty dissolves. The asymmetry of loyalty. This conditional nature also reveals why loyalty is so often asymmetric. Those with power expect greater loyalty than they extend in return. A prince demands unwavering loyalty from his subjects, but remains strategically flexible himself. Employers expect employees to stay loyal through tough times, yet feel no obligation to reciprocate during downturns. Even in personal relationships, the partner with more options often expects more loyalty than they themselves offer. Machiavelli didn't condemn this asymmetry as immoral. He simply saw it as a natural outgrowth of power dynamics. The expectation of unconditional loyalty serves the powerful. It binds the less powerful while preserving freedom for those in control. In this way, loyalty becomes not a virtue, but a tool of control, a moral mask hiding a strategic mechanism, fear, interest, and the foundations of reliable relationships. So, if loyalty isn't the solid ground we believe it to be, what actually holds relationships together? Machiavelli offers a stark and striking answer. Since love and fear can hardly exist together, if we must choose between them, it is far safer to be feared than loved. To modern ears this sounds harsh, but Machiavelli isn't advocating tyranny. He's pointing out a deeper truth. Reliable relationships must rest on something sturdier than professed loyalty or emotional connection. In his framework, fear doesn't necessarily mean terror or brute coercion. It means consequences. Fear in this context is the recognition that betrayal carries a cost. Legal, social, financial, reputational. And this is the key insight. Relationships become stable when the cost of betrayal exceeds the benefit. We see this principle operating everywhere, Employment contracts include non-compete clauses, not to inspire loyalty, but to raise the cost of defection. Marriage isn't just an emotional bond, it's a legal and financial entanglement that makes separation expensive. Political alliances come with treaties with explicit consequences for violation. These structures don't eliminate betrayal, but they reshape the calculations that drive it. They redefine the cost-benefit equation that underlies conditional loyalty. Machiavelli also understood a powerful truth. Aligned interests are far more reliable than professed loyalty. The promise given was a necessity of the past. The word broken is a necessity of the present. When circumstances shift, promises shatter, crushed beneath the weight of evolving interests. But when those interests remain aligned, relationships endure, even in the absence of deep emotional connection or moral obligation. This is why some partnerships outlast decades on mutual benefit alone, while intense friendships dissolve the moment priorities diverge. The appearance of loyalty doesn't create aligned interests. It emerges from them. Navigating a world without absolute loyalty. If we accept Machiavelli's view that loyalty is not absolute but conditional, how should we move through the world? Does this mean abandoning trust entirely, living in a cynical state of calculated detachment? Not necessarily. Machiavelli himself offers a way forward. The first method for estimating the intelligence of a ruler is to look at the men he has around him. In other words, understanding loyalty means understanding people, their interests, their options, their pressures. The goal isn't to eliminate uncertainty, but to manage it more effectively than blind faith ever could. Strategic trust emerges from recognizing alignment, not hoping for moral steadfastness. It means spotting potential fractures in advance, rather than being shocked when they split. In professional settings, this means understanding the unwritten truth. Employers are loyal to valuable employees during good times, but will let them go when conditions demand it. Employees, in turn, shift their loyalty based on how they're treated and what opportunities arise. Neither side is morally flawed. They're simply adjusting to changing incentives. Success lies in anticipating these shifts and positioning yourself wisely. In personal relationships, it means acknowledging that even deep emotional bonds are influenced by practical realities. A friendship that drains energy without offering support will eventually falter. A romantic relationship that suppresses one partner's core interests will strain no matter how strong the love once was. Love is real, but love alone doesn't guarantee loyalty when fundamental interests collide. In politics, it means understanding that alliances and oppositions are built on interest, not principle. Enemies become allies. Lifelong supporters become critics. These aren't betrayals, they're how the system works. Expecting moral constancy in a world of shifting interests is a recipe for disappointment. This doesn't mean abandoning ethics. Machiavelli never argued for abandoning virtue altogether. It is better to be temperate than rash, he wrote, when temperance is practical. But he recognized that others may not maintain the same standards, especially when their interests demand otherwise. That's the critical shift. Not a descent into immorality, but a sober understanding of how people behave under pressure. The power of anticipated consequences. Machiavelli's ultimate conclusion is both provocative and illuminating. Loyalty is not born of morality or affection. It's built on systems of consequence and interest. Men are driven by two principal impulses, either by love or by fear. He wrote, "A wise prince should rely on what is under his own control, not on what is under the control of others." In relationships, this means building conditions where loyalty serves others' interests, not relying on their moral compass or emotional consistency. This is why some organizations inspire extraordinary loyalty, even in demanding environments. They create a system where recognition, reward, and advancement are clearly tied to contribution. The appearance of loyalty is really the result of exceptional alignment between individual and organizational interest. It's also why some families remain bonded through thick and thin. Those that build mutual interdependence and clear consequences for betrayal tend to be more resilient than families that depend solely on guilt, obligation, or affection. Whether explicit or unspoken, The mechanisms are the same. Even nations exhibit this pattern. Patriotism and national loyalty don't arise solely from culture or identity. They flourish when citizens believe their interests align with the nation's. When that alignment erodes, national cohesion weakens. No matter how many flags are waved, no matter how fervent the appeals to loyalty or shared history, the liberation of Machiavellian clarity. At first, Machiavelli's view of loyalty can feel bleak. It strips away comforting illusions. It forces us to confront something unsettling. Human relationships are often conditional, and what we call betrayal is sometimes just a shift in incentives. But in this clarity, there's something profoundly liberating. Because once we stop expecting loyalty to be unconditional, we can start building better relationships, not fragile structures held together by wishful thinking, but resilient systems built on aligned interests, clear expectations, and realistic understanding. This perspective doesn't just help us avoid disappointment. It gives us tools to design relationships, institutions, and agreements that encourage the behavior we want, not through moral pressure, but by making loyalty the rational choice. It allows us to understand our own loyalty more clearly, to recognize when our commitments are strong and when they're vulnerable to change. And when loyalty fails, we can respond not with bitterness, but with insight, seeing it not as a moral collapse, but as the predictable outcome of altered circumstances. This isn't about abandoning ethics, it's about grounding ideals in reality. Machiavelli's insight isn't that loyalty doesn't exist. It's that loyalty is not what we imagine it to be, not a sacred moral vow, but a dynamic equilibrium maintained through mutual interest and meaningful consequences. When we understand that, we can actually nurture loyalty more effectively because now we're working with reality, not fantasy. So the next time someone declares undying loyalty in politics, in business, in love, remember Machiavelli's clear-eyed wisdom. Look beyond the performance. Ask yourself what interests are at play, what might shift them, and what happens when they do. Not because you're cynical, but because you understand the true nature of connection. From one angle, this looks like distrust. From another, it's wisdom. The myth of absolute loyalty comforts us, but leaves us vulnerable. Machiavelli's brutal honesty may disturb us, but it protects us, not just from others' betrayal, but from our own naive expectations. And here lies Machiavelli's most profound insight. The person most likely to betray you isn't the schemer who calculates loyalty. It's the idealist, the one who believes in absolute loyalty until suddenly they don't. The person who understands loyalty's conditional nature may actually sustain it longer precisely because they don't take it for granted. In a world where loyalty is conditional, the true difference isn't between the loyal and the disloyal. It's between those who understand the mechanism and those who don't. Understanding won't guarantee permanence, but it will help you navigate the complex, ever-shifting terrain of human connection. But there's one more layer, a dimension of Machiavelli's thought that's even more provocative, more challenging to our most fundamental assumptions. It explains why certain individuals, organizations, even nations command a level of loyalty that seems to defy logic. Loyalty that persists despite hardship, sacrifice, or better alternatives. The answer isn't that Machiavelli was wrong. It's that he understood something deeper about human psychology, something most people still fail to grasp.